Welcome back to the skating session. I'm Tony Wheeler. I'm here with Thomas Fu. We are recapping the 2025 World Figure Skating Championships that we attended and just got back from. Like I said, I'm Tony Wheeler. I've been a fan of the sport for over 30 years. I've done a little bit of everything in the sport, from promotions to music editing to helping skaters with IJS to you name it, I've probably done it.
Right. And I've been a fan for like way too long, but not as involved as all those things. But just the nerd who loves to get into the math, who loves to get into the rules and to talk about it with all the people I see at these competitions, especially if you are an official and in the know. And it's always
Both
good to
nerds, both like
have.
reading the rule book.
Yep.
Fun. Kind of what we've known each other for 25 years, and that's been a big part of why
Right.
we've been such good friends because we like the nerdy side of stuff.
Yeah,
So
and I still remember Mr. THU telling everybody that we would met, be like, yeah, he sleeps with the rule book next to his bed. And
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
like, why is that true?
yep. That's
Anyway.
that's our hobby. We were called nerds by Brian Boitano. He said, "Hey nerds." Later on in the week, that's what we got known as. But okay, so this video we're going to highlight the pairs and the dance competitions. Well, starting off with pairs, let's just
Yeah.
go right from the top. Mira and Kahara, two-time world champions now. Very, very fast skating, very big elements. The lift, he does the same lift in the free skate that he's done for years and years and years, where he goes down to one knee, he goes up in the air, he goes back to one knee, he rotates. All of that is really amazing. There's such a good, powerful team. I will say that I think their short program this year, well, both programs, but I think their short program this year, finally, after all these years of watching them, I think they finally have a program that really showcases their talent. And I hope that they stay with Shaylin Bourne. Uh,
I agree.
this,
Um, I mean, for me, a good choreographer understands who their skaters are and choreographs based on what their strengths are in a lot of ways, or if you're going to push it, it's something that's achievable. And to me, like the short program is exactly who they are. They are a fast team. They are a dynamic team. They're not going to just wow you with these beautiful lines. They're not going to create these amazing pictures, right? But they're still going to wow you in other ways. And this program does that.
Mhm.
And it's something that I have disliked about them for years is that they always are given these programs that were for someone else,
Yeah,
right? Like if you were Berg Niza and Secret Litza, you could pull this off.
yeah,
But even then, that's it, you know?
yeah.
And so, short program, Breath of Fresh Air. I remember first seeing it this season and expecting to just not like it. And I loved it. Yeah,
Me
really
too.
good.
Free skate. I mean, I'm not as hot on the free skate as the short, but it's still
Same.
um in a better direction for them. I think it's more the music really irritates me, like the very staccato that's mine. It's just gets very like I don't know. It's not my favorite music, but I think the skating, I think the program is more conducive to showing their talents. Now,
I
that
agree.
said, the free skate was a little bit of a mess. When you have three out of your four jumping elements, she's on 2 feet, she's under rotating, she's struggling. She didn't have the best day. Um, I think that the GOE and the calls, especially on the triple toe, the
Yeah,
individual
triple
side,
toe that was clearly under even live that they gave a cue. Yeah,
yeah. It was generous and even considering their skating skills and their strength of their programs, choreography, I would say is stronger than the Germans, but I thought in the arena, having watched it live, I think everyone around me. I think everyone thought that the Germans had won. But when you do consider, the Japanese team had the stronger program. As a whole, the choreography was a lot stronger. They did not have the finish. They didn't have obviously the technical elements. Like I said, when 75% of your jumping passes have big issues, it's interesting that they were still able to win. Like I said, though, it was very close, so it really could have gone either way. But all in all, I'm not mad by this result because I really do like this team. I really like that they
right.
finally got outside help for
And
choreography.
I agree with that. Like outside help with the choreography. For real though, it's like a night and day difference
Yeah,
when you have
yeah,
a team that's actually doing that. And I agree with you. The long program's not my favorite. Also because it's really like avant-garde. I feel like the music really kind of demands that type of movement, and they're just
mhm,
not those type of skaters
yeah,
either. I wouldn't really know how to describe them as a style other than kind of like fun, powerful,
Dynamic.
dynamic,
Yeah.
right? And that's it. Where this wasn't that. This needed a lot of kind of subtlety
Yeah.
and staccato movement, and
Yeah,
just
exactly.
I don't think it's their
That
strength.
music is very
Yeah,
like
bump,
it's
bump,
just
bump,
good.
bump.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they weren't good at hitting those. And Marie France, I believe, is that choreographer who needs to stop using this singer. She overuses him. Um,
But she's very good choreographer because we're going to talk
she's a
about
very good choreographer.
that's
It's
very
just she
good. Yeah.
finds things she likes, and she's like, "Let me give it to everybody."
Yeah.
But I guess when you're choreographing now 30 programs a year, that happens.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I've been down on them a lot this whole quad. I mean, you know that. But seeing this and seeing how they are improving, at least in this artistic direction, makes me not kind of like they won. I'm not mad about it. I think the Germans should have won,
Mhm.
but you can see to where that was. It was
Yeah.
that strength of that
Yeah.
short program
Yeah.
and that cushion.
Yeah.
And I'm even looking at the protocols like right now, maybe just the different call would have made them lose like what, a point and a half, 2 points.
Yeah.
And maybe that really was it. But yeah, I'm not mad about it.
I'm not mad about it either. I thought it was one way, but I'm not. Germans, I'm so impressed with them. I
Yeah.
really have been saying probably for at least a year now they're going to win the Olympics. I really feel it. I really do. They've come together so quickly.
God,
Hassan,
it's come together in a way that just it's beautiful to see. Like you just never see them look bad on the
yeah.
ice. Whereas like the Japanese team, I feel like you could
They
take
don't hit not such nice
pictures.
lines.
Right, exactly,
The
exactly.
Germans
Yeah.
are we went through this quad where we were starting off with very weak teams winning medals at international events just because that was
With double
the
throws. Yeah.
that was the landscape of where we were with skating. And I feel like this team came along and it's like they kind of I hate to say it, but they're kind of taking the place of this traditional Russian quality of pair skating that we've seen for so long that is missing now. They kind of stepping into that. Everything is done so well. The timing is done so well on the side by side jumps. The throws are massive. The lifts are good. He came down on that lift at the end of the program, which
Right.
cost them the gold medal most likely. But he hit it very well, I have to say. Like I knew there was a mistake, but I don't think
He disguised it. That control he had
yeah
in
when
the
he
put
had her
down
on her
itself was
yeah.
just like really just like, yeah,
I don't think
they played
everyone
it.
realized it, at first. I mean,
They
from
didn't.
a fan
Yeah.
standpoint, the judges obviously did, but I think they disguised it well enough that it wasn't like the fans didn't really react, and that might be why
Yeah.
a
It
lot of
wasn't as clunky as that Shen and Zhao moment when they
yeah,
won Worlds with the
yeah.
bad lift at the end. Yeah.
But their short program music is not my favorite at all. But even that program, it's just the strength of their skating, I think, is just so good. Free skate, I'm not gonna lie, that free skate is relatively empty. And I've talked to other pair skaters that are very high level,
Sure.
and they say, yeah, but the one thing is their program's kind of empty, and it's very true. They could add a lot more choreography, they could add a lot more intricacy, but the elements that they do are very,
Yeah.
very
It's a
good.
the way I think about it is, if you think about tortoise and the hare, they're the slow and steady
Mhm.
team. That's how they skate. Whereas Riku and Ryuichi are that hare. They're just going for
I'm out of it.
everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so like you can really feel that too in the lifts. Their lifts are so good and so striking because she creates such great shapes. Her lines are amazing. He's so tall. He's so strong. I would say in terms of everybody in those lifts, like no struggle
Yeah.
with getting up. You don't see him get tired.
Yeah.
Now he
Well,
clearly
except at the end of the
was.
free skate. Yeah.
But right, except the end of the free skate.
Yeah.
But you can see that in the weakness in that like they do that like you're saying classic Russian pair. They also do that classic Russian pair to where it's like, ooh, let us just lift here in this shorter end of the rink in this
Yeah.
small axis and be done, right? Whereas the Japanese are flying down.
Mhm.
It's something the same thing the Chinese teams do, flying down the center of the rink and just throwing that lift at the audience face and not trying to hide it. So, I mean, I feel like that's really what's hurting the German teams. Like what you're saying, everything's empty, everything's smaller, everything is just that slower and steady to where it's a great picture.
Mhm.
But as an audience member, are you really building a performance program?
Right.
And that's
I,
the
I,
missing
I like
thing
them.
for
I,
them.
I, I like I like their unison. I think for being
Yeah,
together as short as they have,
it's
I'm
amazing.
very
Like it
impressed.
really is. It's the best in the world in terms of like the lines, that unison, and for everything you're looking for in pair skating.
Yeah.
I would say after them, I really like Conti and Machi in that same regard. But even then, they've surpassed Conti and Machi with that. Like it's how long have they been together, the Germans?
2, 3 years, maybe.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I
Two,
mean, they
three
have
years.
you either people talk all the time throughout the history of skating. It takes time to develop unison. It takes time, but there are some skaters that just have it. I'm sure Alyona Savchenko could get out on the ice today with a decent male skater. They probably have good unison within like a week. You know, it's just
Right.
you adjust yourself and you have this ability. And I feel like Minerva has really stepped into that because I wasn't so familiar with Nikita's skating prior to skating with Minerva.
Yeah, same.
I knew her skating very well. She always delivered really strong short programs in the past, and it was kind of the free skate that went the wrong way. But they've really stepped it up, and I still feel like they are going to have their big moment in 2026. Speaking of Kanti and Matsi, I was so surprised because I watched their short program all season. Okay, it's Carmen. Carmen's actually very refreshing these days when you have all this snoozy music that skaters.
I know, right?
But on top of it being Carmen, they chose like what, like six music at it. I mean, it's a lot of like it's the best of Carmen CD, and it's one piece to another very quickly. But I feel like they're a believable team from selling whatever kind of style they throw out there, and their free skates tend to go the same direction. This more I don't know, I like snoozy kind of
I
music.
know.
The short program is very, even from the opening pose that takes them like 30 seconds to get into, it's just interesting, and it's like a little bit of a unique twist somehow on Carmen, and I really enjoyed it. And I had a feeling going into this event, I had a feeling that this was going to be the podium. I've watched them really get it back together this year, and I think they're a strong team. And I know you didn't stay for the exhibition, but they do an exhibition now where he dresses up. It's like gender bender, and
Yeah, yeah. I did see
she has
it.
abs and a beard,
So
and he's in like a tutu, and it's a lot of fun. I think they take skating in a very fun way, and they've always had a really fun kind of, when they first burst onto the scene and they're getting all these results a few years ago, they just seem so excited by everything, and I still feel like that creeps into their skating, so it's really enjoyable.
it really does. Yeah. So yeah, I've told you they're my favorite pair in the field right now, just for that performance quality that I'm there with them emotionally, and even then the elements are good. I'm always surprised when things fall apart with them because I never get that sense that it's about to. Unlike with a lot of
Yeah.
other teams, everything feels so steady, and you're right, like they've gotten it together this year. It felt like again they are one of the top pairs.
Do they have a
My
chance
favorite thing.
at Olympic gold though?
Gold? No, I don't think so. I think it's medal. I think they're hunting for a medal. I think that's the biggest thing for them. Just considering like where they are relative to the other teams, it will require the other teams to make mistakes and them to go clean. I think if everyone goes clean, they're third. I think that's just the way things are headed right now. And in terms of like some of the things are just still too shaky for them relative to their teams. Like they're not going to gain on the lifts and the twists like they need to. So just score wise, that's where you're going to get GOE in pairs. And you're just looking at the competition, Haas and Bulletin are objectively far better at those elements. So even if they're losing in PCS, the GOE is going to be a lot crazier. And then same thing with the Japanese.
Yeah.
Their lifts are just scored better. I don't always like their lifts.
Mhm.
They have a lot of speed. The transitions in and out are great. It's always just the positions are just not something I ever want to
Yeah,
look at or take a
half
picture of.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's one thing that Minerva definitely has. I would say the Japanese
yeah.
don't even have like that perfect, some of her
No,
positions are not great,
no.
but Minerva really has it all over them as far as the top contenders. In fourth place, Medokina and Buralava from Georgia. Very, very consistent with the elements. I mean, their single skating ability is really, really great. They changed their short program for this competition. They had that Papadakis Cicerone kind of tribute
Yeah,
program earlier in the year, which I did not mind.
which I liked.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I thought it was fun. I also thought that the short program here was pretty decent. But my issue is the free skate just is a bunch of nothing. I really I the one piece of choreography, I memorize programs pretty quickly. I'm known to watch a program once or twice, and I'm like, okay, I memorized it. And the one thing that I remember from their free skate is the jump rope choreography that he does towards the end, which has absolutely no place in whatever story they're trying to tell. I see them in the exhibitions and the galas, and they're a lot of fun. They have a lot of energy, but then you go to this free skate, and it's, to me, I just don't know where the skating is going. I think they do the majority of their big elements first. So then you leave the rest of the program almost to nothing. But there's no denying their technical ability. I mean, their jumps are massive, their throws are massive. Uh, they are going to be a team that's in the hunt for an Olympic medal if they skate clean in the short because it will score well. I just hope that next year they get a little bit more personality into their free skate because you see glimpses of it.
Yeah, I haven't watched their exhibition, so I wouldn't even know that even exists. I'm not trying to be like shady or whatever. Just I watch their skating. I feel a lot of the same things. You were talking about their new short program, like I don't even remember it.
Yeah,
That's literally it. Whereas like I remember their old short program,
yeah,
whether or not you liked it, you remembered it.
yeah,
This just I'm looking at the music and it was summertime. I'm like, I
yeah.
don't even remember hearing
But you
it.
know, it was like a scat summertime. Like it was actually
Oh,
it was
okay.
interesting. I mean, it was if you're looking at both programs, it was definitely better than the free skate. I don't know why they felt the need to change the short because I thought the last one, like you said, you agree too, it was good. And as far as I know, when they were at World Juniors a few weeks ago, it was still the old short program. I don't know why they changed it,
Yeah.
but
And you're right. Yeah, all their elements are so good. They're a team that just kind of have as everything ready to go. I don't know what they need to have that last push. And maybe they need a real death spiral at some point. I don't know
yeah,
if they
that
know
does
how to
spiral.
do
You
an
know,
inside or an
I will
outside death
take credit for
spiral.
this. I said at Skate America in that first practice, I said, I'm pretty sure I'm not completely up to date with the rules yet this season because I had been traveling right before that. But I said, I'm pretty sure that her death spiral is very borderline going to get no credit one day.
Yeah, the
And
head's
then it
just
happened at
never
Europe.
below the knee, or if it is for like a second, but
Yeah,
never
it's
even a
not even
full
a full
rotation.
rotation. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
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 I think that's the. I
Well,
think they
luckily
got
for
called
them, it
on
will
it.
be a different death spiral next year. So
But
eh,
didn't they do inside last year?
I don't remember.
Also not great. Anyway,
But
yeah, hopefully.
it's
Most
another
teams don't have a
Kazakova
great
and
outside death
Dimitriev
spiral. It's
situation.
fine.
I remember in 1998, Kazakova and Dimitriev, the CBS focused so much in on that death spiral. They're like, oh, that it's so bad they can't do it right. And then in the short program, it was very dicey, but they got through it. Obviously, they won Olympic gold. Anyways, moving on. Diana Stellato and Maxime Deschamps in fifth place. Not the competition they wanted, obviously, because they had a really good skate at Four Continents, and it looked like okay, they're back on track. The one thing I did notice, and I actually ran into Deanna the night after their free skate, and I had a little talk with her, and I said, you know, the one thing I noticed is in this competition, you seem much more relaxed. It's not that she was ever unhappy, but it just seems she was so prone to wanting this perfect skate time and time again. And I felt like in this competition, even though neither program really went exactly how they wanted, they seemed very content with where their skating is at, and they know it's a building process into next year. And let's be real, she's in her 40s. You know, I'm similar age to her, and I can't imagine being at this level. You know, it's hard for me to get out of bed without my back hurting. So it's like, you know, I'm very impressed, and I'm very impressed with their attitude this week. And I hope that next year. I think last year they had two amazing programs. I think this year the short program didn't really hit exactly how it should have. Free skate was beautiful music. It really was a beautiful program. I just think I think last year was so character driven and it was good for them that this year was a little bit more of just a feeling and that necessarily
No, they're not a vibes team. They cannot skate to a vibe. You know what I mean? Like they need that character. They're
yeah.
very character driven, and it's kind of the same thing I'm going to say about dance later about Chalk and Bates. But I love that. I love it when they're playing characters. When they won the world title, I know some folks did not like that.
Yeah.
The music they used, but I loved it.
No, I
And
loved
how
it.
like campy it was. And the costume was campy. I'm
All
like,
of it
yeah,
was.
give me
Yeah.
yeah. hmm
They were fun. You know,
They don't the program didn't take itself too seriously, yeah.
I know that they said last year, they said they already had their program set up for this year. They already had their program music set up for next year.
I
I'm
remember
so
you saying
tempted
that.
to get into her DMs and make sure, you know, it doesn't matter what I think, but I really hope that it's more along the lines of what we saw in 2024 because they really they were the moment, you know, and this year it was like, oh, it was nice, but it didn't hit on that same level.
Right, and when their placement feels right. Even if in this field, like it doesn't feel like they should be fighting for a medal right now. Just
I
given
mean,
the
I think with
quality
the
of their
right programs,
skating.
yeah, but
With great programs, yeah, but even then, it's just like I think the other teams too are improving. Whereas this year they didn't. You didn't really see a lot of that huge improvement like they needed, and what they needed was consistency to be like, no, we are the world champions. But instead, the judges were giving other teams higher
yeah,
PCS.
yeah, that's the thing I noticed.
Never
You know,
medal to
I
win.
think they were at Nebelhorn or something really early in the season, and I didn't watch the programs because I was on a month-long vacation. But then when I came back, I was like, wow, like the PCS that they got for world champions to start the season is not that great. and it kind of stayed at that level all season, you know. So I think again, I think you give them the right program and they're back in business, but I just think that this
I agree.
year it wasn't the perfect choices. Following them were
Right. And then
the American teams, Efimova and Mitrofanov.
yeah, where did that come from? Like for real?
Actually, I
Like
mean, I saw,
I
it's been building up. You know, they won nationals. They skated really well at nationals. I think the biggest thing that I can see from the beginning of this year to right now, I was at Skate America, like I said. I in the practices, I really noticed she was stone-faced, he was stone-faced. They were kind of in their own world. Um, and then they go skate their competition, and I keep confusing the two, but I think it was Ted Barton that said they gave him Gordiev and Grinkov vibes from that skate, and I was like they literally did not sell the program, and this is something they were both kind of notorious for with their older partners. Like there was
yeah.
always this kind of disconnect from each other and disconnect from really selling the program. But I have to say, like I don't know if it was nationals or this, climbing up steadily and getting used to each other, but I feel like they're really selling the programs much more now. I was blown away by their short program at Worlds. Their free skate is the one that everyone talks about, but I'm like, well, the short program is very, very good. And I think the free skate was also beautiful. I think now they are probably USA number one. I don't think it's
Definitely.
really
Oh, yeah, I don't think there's a question
matter,
on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Even just
think,
the quality of everything. Like I wouldn't say they're the best at everything, but the
yeah,
overall picture and package is there. Yeah.
yeah. We don't, no one really knows what their Olympic, citizenship status is. It seems to be that when they get asked, they beat around the bush. And I asked someone very high up in USFSA when I was drinking at the hotel one night, what the status with that was. And this person was also not quite sure what was going on. So we'll see.
Oh, I love that. Nobody knows. It's
The
great.
rules would have to be bent pretty severely for them to be able to be in contention for next year. We'll see. But it's, I think USA potentially has 3 spots, and it might be wide open for 2 of those spots. So we'll see.
And then
Speaking of the other American team, Cam and O'Shea, it was not known until after the competition that Danny broke his foot. Something's going on with his foot. He was in a boot. I saw him at the Boitano Lounge. It's no secret now because they've talked about it, but
right.
he was in. He kept in contact, monitoring with USFS every day leading up to Worlds. They were like, "Okay, go skate." I was fortunate enough to be part of the conversation they had at Boitano Lounge where they were, Ellie was saying, I didn't even feel like scared of anything. I knew he was going to do it. I know we were going to get the 3 spots. Like, I'm very happy for him. All is good. So now he's going to take care of that injury. I think they're obviously the front runners for the Olympic spot, considering what we
Oh,
have going on
definitely.
with the other team. I have to say, Mary France, though, this free skate, this is like the perfect this free skate, and I think you're the one who said it. It's better than a lot of the ice dance free dances, like the choreography. It's just built. I mean, you can say whatever you want about the music. I'm sure people are gonna be like, oh, the music, but it builds so well. That program, the choreography is strong. Every element is like a highlight. It's a good program.
It is. And when you were talking about they're my favorite US team just for that. It's a good program, but they can actually deliver it.
Mhm.
This program requires you to just kind of be in that joyful
Yes.
space. And I
Yes.
think it's so again, it's two spans who need their cold hearts warmed every once in a while. That I loved this. I don't
Yeah.
care that she didn't land any throws.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, and they're my favorite US pair. And I think in just terms of if you're looking at all the skills, everything you need to actually be a great skater and a great team, they have everything except the throws.
Yeah.
I would
She's
say their
she's
skating
really good on side
skills.
by sides. She's got this.
Yeah, they're really great side by sides, right? Exactly, right? And to me, it's weird to me that the throws still haven't gelled even after all this time because they have some of the best skating skills of all the pairs, if not the
Uh-huh.
best. I think they have the best skating skills as a pair.
Yeah.
Same thing, when it comes to the lifts, Danny is one of the best partners,
Yep.
lifting partners in the world, and their lifts are amazing. I honestly think they were undermarked a little bit, just
Yeah.
considering where they were skating. But if you put them in the final flight and they're in medal contention, those lifts are easy plus fours in so many
Yeah.
ways.
Those final 2 lifts in the free skate, though, that is like the best set of lifts. I mean, it just fits the music. It fits the joy of the music. It really, the transition that he has going into one of those lifts, everything is so, so good. I think they really, the choreography is just perfect.
Yeah, I really, I don't know. How old is Danny? They're a team that when we think about already the next quad and who's staying around, I would
Hmm.
love for them to stay. They could just literally, if they could build that consistency with those throws a little
Yeah.
better, they could just be the ones leading US pairs in the next quad. And I just want to selfishly keep seeing them skate. They're so good.
Yeah.
They give you that kind of like feeling that you don't get from being a nerd. I'm not going to sit there and analyze like levels and edges and get that kind of weird nerdy joy, but I'm going to get here and just feel this pure joy in their skating, and
And their
it's
short
stuff you
program
don't
is a
get enough
very
of.
overused piece of music, and they still make it fresh and like it's a good program, So they have all the ability. They really they I hope they keep on track with the same set of choreographers. I hope
Same
that
team, same everything.
yeah.
And one thing too, I think I'm not sure if you noticed this. We may have talked about it. Another thing I just really want them to change is everything they do is almost like the Japanese pair, except cleaner. They're
Mhm.
like Yuri and Kiri with the cleaner versions of,
Yeah.
except the throws. The throws they slow down to a halt, almost kind
Mhm.
of like Isabeau style
Mhm.
with the
Mhm.
Lutz and the flip,
Yeah.
and it's so jarring. And then
Yeah.
you wonder how she's not able to land. It's because she's landing at a standstill. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on
It does
there.
it has no
Um,
distance, it has nothing. It's
yeah,
very up and down, Yeah.
that's it. That's it. Fix that, please. You
So
guys could be world medalists so easily,
yeah.
like a title contenders so easily if they just fix that. Yeah.
So again, just going into some of the other teams that I have highlights from going down the results. Anastasia Vipin-Law and Luke
Oh
Digby.
yeah.
Another team, I'm just wowed. At Skate America, I was like, whoa, this team came together so quickly. And this year, I think they really stepped it up. They were what, fifth at Euros, I think. Um, just a feel good team. Everything seems very clean as a pair. They've really gelled into some nice positions. I think she's really a star. I think with a little bit more time, there's still room to improve where they're going to continue to climb up the standings. Very happy with them.
Yeah, they were really surprising at Europeans. Because I could swear I'd seen them before, and it was always felt like close to disaster. And then all of a sudden, this felt
Look
like, oh, this is,
smooth.
seems really smooth. Yeah, right, exactly. This feels
Yeah,
really smooth.
yeah,
This feels
yeah.
easy. It's almost like something gelled and clicked,
Hmm.
from one season to the next. Yeah, no, I'm really excited for them too, even for just the idea of more competition at Europeans for pairs. It tends to be one of the better competitions.
Going way down, I think actually they were probably 20th overall. Vuillamos and Bouvard from Switzerland. They're another team that has come together really quickly. He skated for France before. He has quite possibly the best double axel I've ever seen. He's a tall guy, and that double axel is a thing of beauty. Their elements in general, they're all very big. They were fourth at Junior Worlds. I think they did pretty well at Euros this year. And a little bit more time, and I think that they're going to be potentially top 10 pretty quickly. Uh, they obviously now need to go to China if they were to want to go to the Olympics. I'm not sure what the citizenship status is. They might not even be an option for next year. But as far as the world status goes, I think give them this summer and they're going to come back really strong next year.
Yeah, I'm seeing here they were 13th at Euros.
Yeah.
Um, I was really surprised too for her how little time they spent together for how good they looked. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
same thing. It was just the normal growing pains. Transitions weren't smooth and things like that. But other than that, no, yeah, I see what you mean. I agree
And
with it.
finally, a team that did not make the free skate, Nagaoka and Noguchi from Japan. You want to see a team fly through a program with absolutely no fear. This is those two. I mean, it is insane. The one thing they have holding them back, and I said it to my entire row before they even skated. I'm like, they are not going to get through that twist. It was a disaster in practice. It was all over the place. Program, obviously, it was a huge problem that ultimately made them not qualify for the free skate. But I think even so, like we talked about earlier, with the women, the fact that there is a short program and a free skate at this qualifying competition and no one's getting cut after the short, they will probably be able to score so high technically in the free skate,
Right.
they will get an Olympic spot because they do side by side loops that are usually pretty good, very strong technical ability. And I think that will boost them into one of those spots for the Olympics.
And they're just flying. Like
Yeah.
that lift, God, I
Yeah.
remember watching
Yeah.
them the nationals. Like, wow, I'm like, who are these,
Yeah.
two? They're insane. Like this lift speed is just not something people do. And seeing that in person was just
Blows
I'm a
your
loss
mind.
for words. It really is. I'm
Yeah.
a loss for words here because no
There's
one
like
else
an
is skating at this
abandon, but
speed. An
it's
abandonment,
actually
right?
controlled. It's
Hmm.
like they skate with
And
no
they
fear at
mhm.
all, and they're
And
in
she's performing the entire
the
time.
Yeah.
And so that was really sad to see them not make the free skate because I feel like this might be like the direction of the future of pair
Yeah.
skating, where it is kind of just this abandoned, but almost like this cleaned up version. It's like you take what the Japanese are already doing and you just refine it and you get them.
So what was your favorite part of the pairs competition?
Favorite part. Oh God. Honestly, okay. Honestly, it was Haas and Bulletin. I know there's someone I've enjoyed, have been my favorite to watch, but seeing them in person, their skating is so striking.
Mhm.
You can understand why they get the PCS they do. From home, you're like, oh, this is great. It seems a little
Mhm.
slow,
Mhm.
but there's a massiveness to it. I don't know how else to describe this. You
Yeah.
just feel that. It's almost like you would think of charisma, but it's like in your face, where even if they're not skating with the most speed, there's like no choreography happening.
Yeah.
The face they're giving and the
Yeah.
performance they're giving, I'm buying it. And I guess maybe this is the new IGS. We don't have a transition mark anymore.
Yeah.
So
All
maybe I just need to
feelings.
accept
Yeah.
it and just be like, you know what,
Vibes.
it's okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I actually have to agree. Like I said, that short program, the artist is all over the place in skating, and I'm usually not. I'm like, whatever, this sensual, jazzy, whatever you want to call it. But they really elevate it to something else, and they are very striking, and they have a presence, I think, that is much needed in pairs because we talk about how pairs was the last that season right after the Olympics. A lot of teams were gone, the Russians were gone. It's nothing against not having Russians. It was a very weak time, and I'm really pleasantly surprised at how many new teams have really gelled quickly and where the sport is now, because all the way down, like I said, that we're talking about the team that finished 20th place out of the 20 that went to the free skate, and they have massive potential. I don't think anyone had
They really do. Yeah.
chance a few years ago, so I want to see I want to see them, and I want to see a lot of the other up and comers really step it up next year. I think that in Beijing it's going to be very intense because there are only 3 spots available, and um Sui
Oh,
from is
wow.
coming back. So we don't know how she's doing with her partner, but you have to consider that they're probably going to be in the running. I would say the Japanese team, just because they're very capable of high 120s in the free skate, they're probably a favorite. So then you have all these other teams really vying for one spot to get to the Olympics.
Right, who knows how many teams pop up overnight
Yeah,
representing something that we
Uzbekistan
haven't
has a
gotten.
second spot now potentially. So, they might find another team to go there too. So I think that's going to be the most intense competition. The other ones, you more or less have an idea of who the favorites are, but with pairs, you basically you're most likely looking at one spot, maybe two. We don't know how Sui is doing, but it's going to be intense. All right.
Then it'll be really interesting regardless to even just see like has there been any footage of them?
Yeah, not
Okay.
not strong in the beginning, but then I think some of the later practice videos they looked much better.
But
I
just practice videos could be anything
yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a compilation of the best moments of practice. You never know, but I have confidence that they will show up pretty. If this is the angle they're going and they truly want to go to 2026, I think they'll
Yeah.
show up pretty strong in the fall, and we'll see. All right,
I'm
so
heard.
let's move on to the dance competition, and
Right.
let's.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
overall, I would say, obviously my favorite discipline in general, but even here though was not my favorite to watch. It was probably it's close to last, honestly. Which is weird for me to say. Like it's really between this and pairs, but I really liked pairs. Whereas like with dance, I'm like I enjoyed it in the I read the rules type of way, but I enjoy it as like an audience member type of way. Not as much.
So let's
But it,
let's
it
talk
was a
about that
great
though.
competition.
You
Yeah.
think, do you think that part, because me too, I grew up in a generation where the women were where it's at. It's my favorite discipline by far. Now I would say that's not the case. I really truly enjoy dance now, but I think maybe two things: the rhythm dance theme this year, the rule changes for the
Oh,
rhythm
yeah.
dance, and then on top of that, the free dances
Yeah.
of the top teams. I'm
Yeah, let's use that with
getting
this.
vibes of like previous, like in 2002 was notorious for a lot of the top teams having these weird programs that just weren't their best. I feel like looking at the free dances this season of the top teams, it was more of the same. We've seen better, I think, from all of those teams.
Everybody.
But some of them, it was
Mhm.
not even a question. But I do have to say some of my favorite moments in the free dance came from very early on in the night.
Yeah,
And
for real. Like
get to
I think
the
we
final
said
two.
that.
Yeah.
I think I was the one who was saying like, oh, is ice dance now the discipline to where you come for groups 2 and 3,
Yeah.
and then group 4 would accept what happens, and you're like, no, I'm here for group 1.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what you were like,
I'm
yeah.
literally, I went to the practice really early in the morning because I'm like, I want to watch the Finnish team. I want to see their free dance practice. You know, they were first to skate. So, because
But
of,
yeah,
but
well,
still, like,
let's go to order for this. I think with ice dance, it's really important when you talk about the competition to talk about maybe why we're making criticisms,
yeah,
because it's just they made a lot of changes the past quad, even the quad before that. And to me, it's kind of all pushing towards something that maybe is audience friendly, but isn't as sport or fan friendly, if you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
it's here for the casual audience, but not here for
It's here for the
the
audience that
sport.
doesn't know anything about the sport. They're
Right.
trying
Exactly.
desperately to sit people in the seats. It's ice dance. It's a hard sell because there are not these dynamic throws and lifts, and there's a lot of difficulty going on. They're probably the best skaters, skating skill wise, in the world, but they're not, it's hard. We read the rules, we know what we're looking for, we know what's included. When they're doing their 1 foot step, there's 4 requirements. We know what they're looking for within those 4 steps. Casual fan is never going to understand that. And so it's really hard. They see like a level 2 or a level 3 and they think, oh, because there was a little bobble or something. But no, it's because of the meticulous of one of the edges for a split second was not on the right edge, or the turn wasn't clean. And it's not, regardless of what you do as far as getting these viral moments, it's not going to it's not going to get fans to come to the competition if
And,
they don't know
because
the
and it's
rules.
the thing too. I think they exactly, and I think it's like one thing they're missing with all of this is that they forget that you have to explain how someone won.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with every other discipline, you can do that. And other sports, you can do that. And I get wanting to get a more audience friendly, thing, but then it's created a lot of these issues that we've talked about, and we'll get into it, but
Yeah, I mean, next year we're gonna have a plenty of Macarenas and Spice Girls. We're going to have that, and it's going to create these viral moments for NBC Olympics and ISU and all these other outlets. They're going to get a million views, whatever. But then, is it really keeping the fans long term? No. Is it going to make the fans that really love the sport be more disappointed by where the direction is going? Probably yes, but it is what it is. They're so far gone from where they needed to be. It's going to take a real revamp of the entire rules, look at these choreographic elements. Anyways, we're gonna go into all this stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But let's
Okay,
let's
but
start off with let's start off with shock and baits.
right. And
Tell me what you think first.
okay, I mean, you know what I think. Like, so I have liked them a lot. There's somebody who, when they were with Igor, I didn't like for the reasons of they were just really sloppy, like a lot of his teams tend to be. We're going for speed, we're going for show, but do I showing refinement and am I showing actual unison and ice dance together? No, right? When they went to Montreal, you saw that. Even their first Elvis free dance, I loved it. It had this charm, it had a playfulness that they didn't have before, but it was character, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, they just kept doing these character free dances, which to me was their wheelhouse. It
Mhm,
worked.
mhm.
Even when the post-Olympic season, where they're like, okay, we're not quite characters, but now I'm like an element and she's the opposite elements. It worked,
Yeah.
right? It very that old school Winkler Louse type of way,
Yeah.
although they did that every year. Now that they're getting to more of these vibe programs, like, ooh, look, we're this all-American ice dance couple. They're skating as people they aren't, and I don't connect with it.
Yeah.
And it really makes the flaws in their skating really apparent because instead of being like, oh, look, she's an alien, they're doing a cool move. Oh, that's almost like a UFO thing, right? Like, and that's what you're thinking in your brain.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm just kind of like, oh God, those whistles were so slow.
Yeah.
I could just see like they're just crawling, like especially like that second set where they're going their opposite direction. It's
Yeah.
just like even in person, you're just like you know this is a group 1 element,
Yeah.
not a
I've
group
I've
4
said it for a
free
long
dance
time.
element.
Said it for a long
And
time.
right. And if this was in group 1,
They would get
easily
zero
plus
GOV.
1, plus 2. Well,
Yeah.
0, right?
Yeah.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
group 1, right? But it
Yeah.
should be like plus 2 maybe, right? On a
Yeah.
really great day.
Yeah.
And then plus 4, right? And so stuff like their choreographic elements and their lifts, plus 4, plus 5 all day. That choreographic spinning element, I know it's kind of a retread element, but it works. It's so good. Same with a lot of their lifts. She's such a good performer. Her extension's so great
Yep.
now. He's just so great at presenting her amazing stuff. But stuff like their twizzles, stuff like their step sequences. Oh, that step sequence. I was like, this is again maybe a group 2 step sequence.
Yeah, and the
They're
rhythm
not
dance
going for
too,
any.
in the rhythm dance, they have that pattern step, and there was a really dicey moment, which doesn't necessarily affect their level, but it's almost like she was not over her blades correctly, and she got both skates kind of stuck on the ice. For the casual fan, you're not going to realize that that's
Right.
happening, but I did right away, and I'm like, the judges are still going to give this +4, +5. It's just the little things like they're already winning by so much. I just wish the scoring was more reality
Right.
based for all the
Yeah.
teams across the board.
Exactly. I don't have an issue with them winning at all. I have an issue with some of the scoring, right? The scoring of their any step elements like twizzles, one
Yeah,
foot, step
yeah.
sequences, they're just overscored.
Hmm.
There's no way that any of those should be +4. Like even just thinking of the step sequence, I remember watching it in the free dance and just being like, there are no deep curves here.
Hmm.
No, right? There's no actual speed here. Even then, just the performance-wise, the music could be anything at that point.
Yeah,
They're just kind of using it to buy time until then they perform when they're
of course.
done. Here's
Yeah,
our choreo elements.
yeah,
Aren't we so great? And
yeah.
that stuff does work, but you can just see that. And
Yeah, but
it's
that's the way that it's so heavily choreographic elements, and it's all vibes now. I mean, you and
yep.
I were privy to. I mean, we were involved in some conversations with some very high up people in ice dance technical committee and judges that have been around forever, and technical specialists, and we kind of brought this up. Some of these lower level teams are doing the Twizzles for sure are better than what Madison Chalk is doing, and it's nothing against her. It's just how it is. And they're scoring much lower. And they said, well, with the choreographic elements, especially, it's like it's more of a vibe. The audience is getting more excited for these later teams. The audience is getting more invested. The judges are trying to go up on their scores as the night goes on because that's just the mentality that's always.
Yeah, the
So you're
psychology of it.
more prone to throw, oh, the audience loves it +5, but it's is it truly what's on the ice? No. But having said that, again, it's not ripping into chalk and baits at all because everyone has strengths and weaknesses. It's just that the amount they're winning by is so outrageous. It
It
is
really is. Yeah, I
that,
don't get the
that they
margin.
don't need to overboost them with scores that just don't make any sense.
Because there should be some real competition. So what they do so well is just they're such a clean team.
Mhm.
Everything's so tidy. All the lines are great. They do everything like this. They create all the pictures, right? But skating skills, like the actual more athletic part, you would think about more classic ice dance, like you would think about in the '90s, what you love about Grishuk and Platov,
Mhm.
Torblin Dean, teams
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
It's not there.
Yeah.
It really is way more acrobatics as opposed to ice dance that maybe kind of we grew up with.
Yeah.
And this just could be the direction the sport is going in, and we're just clinging to the vestiges of the past.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, I think a lot of people that have been fans of skating for a long time want to see it go more in the compulsory. The compulsory dances would come back.
no.
People would
Speaking
complain
of
about them
rhythm
coming back.
dance,
Like
speaking of rhythm dance, right? Let's before we move on to the rest of the team, just talking about that too. I hate that there's a character step in the rhythm dance.
that doesn't make any
It's
sense to
now
me.
just a
It
mini
is
free dance,
it is a
right? A
way to
themed free
boost up
dance.
scores. It really
Yeah.
I watched all the practices, like I said, and almost all of them either end it with the lift or they end it with the mostly the character step. And there's not a tremendous amount of difference from
And
what the team in
right.
28th place is doing from what the top teams are doing,
And
but
what
you can never know it from the GOE. So it's what is the point of it? I
and the
understand.
value assigned, and it's
But
the
no,
value assigned to that element that
yeah,
really is the insanity.
it's
So the
yeah,
base value is 2 points, whatever. But the GOE, every +1 is 1.5 points.
1.5
And
points.
so you're having these, yeah, it's you're having these like group one teams have great character step sequences where I'd be like +3,
Yeah.
+4, right? They're getting +1.
Yep.
Whereas a team later has something mediocre,
Yep.
+3.
Hmm.
And that difference is huge. That's like one
That's
to
a
three is a
massive
three
amount of
point
points.
difference. That's
Yeah.
it's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. In ice dance, that's huge. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a big error.
So, at the end, I have to say, Madison and Evan always very classy, always very polished. I don't think the rhythm dance had a viewpoint, so they just threw everything together and said it's a mashup. And like we talked
Right.
about with Stellato and Deschamps, I think Madison and Evan would be better off to go back to this strong character kind of program next year.
I
I
agree.
really loved the astronaut program.
Me too. The Daft
I,
Punk Alien Astronaut. That's I think my one of my favorite programs of theirs.
Yeah, I
Yep.
like the weirdness for them. The Take Five works. It works in its own way. I think that the middle
See, I
section,
don't.
traditional Take Five, is good. The beginning and the end kind of lose me, but they were going to win this competition no matter what. Like I said, I think that my thing is just be more reality based in what the elements are, you know. Let's
Right.
talk. Okay,
Yeah.
let's Gillis and Poirier.
And
Say my favorite rhythm dance,
yeah,
considering the theme this year, I think that they came out with the most fun rhythm dance. A lot of the choreography is quite literal, and some people might say that's cheesy, but I like it. I really like the
I
vibe.
like it too.
And if we go to the free dance, I know it's a very polarizing program. People either really like it or don't like it.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I'm in the
It's the
middle.
costume that's like bad, maybe that pulls people's emotions. I think in the realm of ice dance, in terms of just like an ice dance program, it's good. It's not like amazing. It's not my
You know what?
favorite.
I think it's not fair for myself to judge them because I always have in my head, I'm like, okay, Vincent and Both Sides Now. Both Sides Now is one of my favorite programs of all
When you
time.
have iconic programs, that
Talk
happens.
about
Like
like a
I
4 minutes
yeah.
that goes fast. Like that always seemed like it was a minute long, and I was, mesmerized every time they skated it. So now I'm holding them to the standard, and I don't think they've quite hit that in their last few seasons. True of most ice dance teams, to
They're
be honest.
what makes their program so good too is they're not the most refined, they're not the cleanest, they're not the fastest, but they're emotional.
Yeah,
And I think this free dance doesn't connect as much because they're not putting their heart, soul,
yeah,
emotions into it, and it's just more stoic just by the virtue of the style, it being kind of more like a more or less a tango. But
yeah.
I think that's what makes Vincent or Both Sides Now so good, is that you're just there with them, and when they're performing really well with the up, I don't know, it was
Well,
missing. It definitely
I
was
think
missing,
one
and the
thing,
skating wasn't as strong in general too
yeah,
here.
I think one thing that we've talked about and you've pointed out is, they're choreographing their programs maybe to be unique or,
I know, right?
you
For
know,
art as
yeah,
opposed to sport.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
what we've talked about, and you've pointed this out quite a bit, is that lends itself to allow the judges to maybe say, highlighting the music is one of these criteria for high GOE and all this stuff. And I don't understand why that's just stuck in like the performance or the composition of the program, because it's kind of like a way to benefit a skater with a double, positive for two completely different things. But I feel like with the Canadians is the elements are very cool, but they're not highlighting the music like they should. And this is why you can give them maybe a +3, and they really need, +4, +5, like we talked about with these scale of values and how it goes up so high. Choreographic elements, you want to maximize the points, and I feel like they don't. I feel like you are probably the
Yeah.
same, you know?
Yeah, because where ice dance is, that's where so much of the GOE is now, and I'm not sure if everyone really understands that. These choreographic elements truly separate the tiers of all the teams. Whether you're getting fours, fives, or you're just getting consistently threes, some fours, there's a huge separation with many points there are. What is it? Each GOE for a choreographic element is like 0.85 or something like that. It's something really dumb,
Yeah.
right?
Some
Higher than every
high
other
value.
element that's
Yeah.
out there. So like doing these choreographic elements well is, or at least getting high GOE is what's putting some
That's
teams
it.
on the top.
Getting high
Right,
G.
and that's what it is. And the
Yeah.
difference between Giles and Bore and Chalk and Bates is those choreographic elements, just like you're saying. I know we talked about it. I think I made a note on it. I love the choreographic assisted jump element that they do in their free dance, but it
Mhm.
just kind of is there. It's really subtle.
Yeah.
But no judge is being like, oh, that was so subtle. That
Oh,
was
it
so
moved me
artsy.
+5.
+5.
Yeah.
No, they're being like, that was cool. +3,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or, I'm from whatever, +4, but
I'm from Canada.
yeah, okay, sure, right. You said it. But that's really what the difference is. And they do that really well sometimes, and they don't others. Because to me, they're always choreographing for art, and that's a problem. I'll say the same about the VR teams and Arriver, but yeah, they need to start choreographing for sport, because if they start choreographing for sport, they could truly be taking these titles from Chalk and Bates more frequently.
We're gonna I'm just gonna break in going by the free
Oh,
dance result to talk about Smart and Deke because
oh yes.
they somehow moved their way up to third in the free dance, and I don't have any complaints about that at all. This is
Same.
this is a kind of thing of like looking the other way again. Their free dance is just such a mood. I mean, it is all about creating these pictures and these long
Yeah,
extent.
yeah.
I don't know how many times, probably at least 3 times in the free dance. It's just her grabbing her by the blade, kind of pulling her around the ice, but it's
Right.
this mood that's
And
building,
then
building, and
and
building.
then she's doing this. She's staring right at you
Exactly. Looking
and
right.
creating that mood, right? And you're fixated. You know what I mean? Like, and she has that charisma to draw you in.
Yep.
And that's easy, right? For an element that's maybe +3, now I'm a judge. I'm like +4,
Yeah.
I'm like +5.
Look what
I'm
it
in
got
it.
them. You know, look what it got
Yeah,
them. They weren't even in the final group, and they have a small medal from Worlds now.
which is
It,
insane. Who would have
yeah,
thought that this
yeah,
team already would have a small medal? To me, I was like, oh, top 10 this year for sure.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I was blown away at Skate America. I was blown away here. It really, like I talked about with both
Mhm.
sides now, with the Canadians, this is just it puts you in this mood. It does not seem like a 4 minute long program. I love it. I really,
And
really
even the flaws you don't care about, like,
yeah,
we were talking about it where it's like, there's no transitions. Who cares?
yeah.
Right? He's just dragging her around the ice for half the program. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't. I
But
was there. I was in for the performance. It was so
it
good.
throws me back. They're doing all the elements, and it throws me back to when, the free dance truly was a free dance, when they're like, put whatever you want in it. We don't really
Yeah,
care.
put whatever you want in it. Right, right, right.
We don't really think
You could be
about
Grishuk and Platov and do 30 million twizzles, and then you
exactly.
could
Let
be
her do
Bowden
all the work.
Kratz and do
Yeah.
one Mohawk. Everything else can be 3 turns.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. That's what I felt like with this program. But you're not thinking, in my head, I'm always watching the programs. I'm like, all right, this is the 1 foot. This is the mid.
Right.
This is
Same. Was
in
not.
that program. It just all flows together, and you don't really think about the elements so meticulously. And that's
Because who else is performing in the 1 foot like Olivia Smart is?
yeah,
Nobody.
yeah,
Nobody out there
yeah,
is doing it. And
yeah.
she's doing it and just staring at the judges the entire time. And that's where my focus goes. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know how it's so captivating.
The
It's
music
one of those
is
just like
so
magic.
it's weird. It's monotone. Like it's not like it's not really
And they
like
fill the space though. They're the ones that
exactly.
fill
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
space. And
Yep.
not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
And even
100%.
the ending, it makes no sense. I still love
I still love it too. I don't care. Feeling begins. I
It's so
used to
like
pretend I was
it's so
Oksana
Zoolin,
Bayul.
right?
No,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah.
I literally used to pretend I was like doing her opening choreography to that program when I was like 8 years old. So throwback to Feeling Begins. I don't care. I love it. All right, let's get back on track. Fear and Gibson
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
bronze medal here. They've been
I'm
capitalizing on mistakes
surprised.
all year long. Like
Yep.
they've really they went into the Grand Prix final as the only team that won both of their events. They've really capitalized on being a consistent team, not really scoring as well this year as they have in the last few years. I really thought they were on an upwards trajectory. I think the free dance is a miss for them
Same.
by the judges, especially because they're another team that really, if we go back to these choreographic elements and being able to time them perfectly with the music and really get this excitement and get these high GOEs, I don't think that it really happens in their. I like their rhythm dance. I will say I like their free dance too. I think maybe it takes too long to get into the change of music. Um, uh, I adore his skating. I think he is so good. But I did see in the free dance he was a little bit tight.
He
It's
was.
you're
It
not
was. You
used
could
to
see
seeing.
that. There are a lot
Yeah,
of places
yeah.
where they just lost unison a little bit. The combination lift
So
with
that
the grip change when you were changing the combination.
yeah,
And I'm looking at here. I remember live. I was like, they're losing too many points on this. This could cost them a
yeah. I
medal.
remember.
It was like
Yeah,
a point and a half they left in GOE just on the table compared to what they
yeah.
normally
It
would
was it
get.
was level two, right?
And
Or did
they
that?
still medaled, but like the lift got 3-4. Yeah. So the first part
Oh, it was originally
got a 3, but it
initially they
was
called it a two, I think.
I think so initially, yeah.
Yeah. But think about it. I mean, they're
And that's
bronze
usually just
medalists, and
like
that's a big mistake. Like they were
and
clearly
they had a mistake that cost them a lot
yeah,
of points,
yeah.
right? And they were still so yeah. That's the message where they would have been third, considering I think it says more though about the
I mean, they are
Italians.
third. You know what I'm saying?
And
Like
before he, yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah,
there were 6 in the free dance though,
yeah, yeah.
and so
They also had the
so instead
deduction.
of
I
being
think
part of the pack, they would have been 125 plus,
yeah.
right? If not for that little bit of mistake. And so
Yep.
even on the kind of shaky bad day, they had a high scoring potential. So I think though that says a lot about the Italians. And where their skating is right now.
I hate it. I hate
But
it
any
so
more
much.
on Fear
I
and
hate it
Gibson?
because I love the Italians. I think that in this quad they are by far the best skaters. I think that I'm saying by far. I'm not a little bit. I'm saying like their
No, you're
skating
right.
skills
You're
mark
good.
needs to be much higher than the other teams. And I always respect, especially it's both of them, but he does these really intricate moves into and out of their elements. And even, going into the twizzles, they always do something a little bit more difficult. They're always curving in different directions. They're always doing something a little bit unexpected. But I feel like both of these programs this season were just a big miss. I don't think that
Right.
anybody knows what their real personalities are, and that's always been something about them. But I think that this year it's just if I'm being quite honest, they had that disaster in France Grand Prix to basically start their season. Um, if I were them, I would have withdrawn from my other event. I would have taken that time to create a completely new program. Or you know what? People have created new programs in 2 weeks. They probably could have done it too. They
Right.
should have just scrapped the program, shown up with something different, and ran with that. I know they wanted to make this program work this season. I think it is interesting. I don't think that they have the face or the tension to be able to pull it off, but it really just didn't go anywhere. It was like you're talking about Chalk and Bates. They did this kind of this one's robots. They were astronaut and alien, but they did that so much better than what this program was. And
Because they were Queen on Fabric were just being themselves, but doing robot choreography. I didn't feel if even just that being the character of a robot,
yeah,
whatever they even were defining that
yeah,
as, or what kind of robots falling in love. But I didn't see that robots, and now it's almost like we're real people now. We have hearts. Like
yeah,
there were a lot of things that could have been done that just weren't done.
yeah.
And I don't know what it is, whether it's an inability in themselves to be able to perform like this so the choreographers or their team don't bother, or their team doesn't see it and have the vision or understand that
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
important the packaging can be.
Yeah,
Like I think packaging is what turned Chalk and Base's career around
yeah.
in so many ways, other than, cleaning up the skating, but the packaging too. And that's just not happening here. If anything, the program choices are getting worse and worse. Like this robot, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't see where it was going. I don't see a
Here's an
story. It just
exhibition.
kind
I
of
don't know.
ends and
Yeah,
it ends and it's done. I'm like, okay, so now they're still robots. That's great.
yeah. They had that exhibition to it more or less, and then I don't know why they thought, maybe it was received well by an audience that I didn't see. I don't know, but I just don't know how you would say this is the pro, especially in a pre-Olympic year when really these results probably mean a lot going into the Olympics. Why would you
I
try
think so.
something that fell so flat in the beginning of the season and then stick with it, and now you have this result of being off the podium? When those three teams going into this really looked, last year you would have said this is going to be all the way through the Olympics. These are the teams.
Right. And I think that the narrative matters too when you're like, here's the two, and we're trying to break in, and we're always almost there, or sometimes getting in there, versus now the separation. And the separation's so much bigger. Um, Especially with Cizeron coming back next year, it's gonna be really interesting to see how Europeans shake out.
Yeah. Carrera and Ponomarenko were very surprisingly fifth place. I did not see this coming.
Okay, so I know this is something that we disagree on. I know that. I don't see. It's not surprising to me, honestly, that
Oh,
they're fifth place.
yeah.
I think they're the clear American number twos because in terms of like the actual skating, like if I'm looking here at the speed, I'm looking at the cleanliness of elements, like the edge work going on. They're one of the top teams in the world.
Hmm.
Now, do they do it in a way that makes you want to take a picture, or that makes you feel like, oh, that edge was just so clean, or look at the way she just swooped out of that and just extended out of the end of that edge? No, that's not happening. They're, I think, a really sloppy team in general. They're, and I don't know how they get to that next level, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not surprised given the field. And what was their free dance score? Sorry, I'm trying to look that up.
123, I think. Same
Right,
as
so they're in that mix, right? They're in that mix of like with a bunch of all the other teams where everyone else has other flaws that are pretty clear too.
I don't know. I think they're a great team. I think that especially she, if you look at where they were at 5 years ago, she has improved massively. I think that he, with his
Yeah.
injuries and I don't know that his body's holding up. If I'm being completely honest, I think they have programs that probably mask their weaknesses a lot. I think
Oh, sure.
for me to really get fully into their program, the thing that's really holding me back is everything he does looks like it's an agony. Like I think I showed you when they were doing the slow motions up above. I'm like, every single face is like agonizing for every move he does, and it sometimes his posture is really, really bad, and it's like he's I don't know. It's hard to get
No,
myself
it's true.
pushing
Sometimes it
him in
is.
full
It's
state.
it's very, like I said, it's just very sloppy. Like he can be. I think he's cleaned up the skating a lot,
Mhm.
and you can see that in that transition year. Like you said, they've had rough years, and I immediately went back to that club program,
Oh yeah.
the Chris Gaines one, and I'm just like,
Okay.
oh, yeah,
But that was
yeah, yeah.
that was the
I
first true, well, besides Sinnott,
The
and
transition year, yeah, that was
yeah,
rough.
but that was when everybody had these weird like these character steps that were like, what is the point of this music to be thrown in here? But I
I think it's what I said to you before, though. They're the US number two for now, right?
yeah.
And I think they're at a huge risk of losing that spot because
The US
realistically,
has been
like
trying to push them out of that spot, and then
they really have, right?
they
Because
said they won. Yeah,
domestic judges do not give them the benefit of the doubt. Only the international judges do, yeah. And so that's why I say it's number two for now, because even just looking at Green and Parsons here, I prefer Green and Parsons in terms of like the program and the
yeah,
overall skating,
yeah,
the actual performance and who I think should be ahead. I think the results right. But I enjoy Green and Parsons more, and I say this as a Carrera and Ponomarenko fan. It was just more the ice dance I like. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's smooth. It
I
has like
agree.
a
It's
concept. It
more,
feels you
yeah,
could see them leading into one another. I can just kind of sit there and relax as opposed to Greg Ponomarenko. I only ever feel tense, and not necessarily like he's about to biff it type of way, but it's just the way they skate.
yeah.
Anyway,
I agree. I agree. You're always a little bit like they're always a little bit off. Green and Parsons very smooth. All right, Marjorie and Zach in sixth. Obviously, very disappointing for
wow.
them because they're a team that probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I would push them and say, if anyone should sneak onto the world podium, it should be them. I thought
Right.
that
They should be like the fourth placers right now, right? Like just right there, ready to take over when everyone retires type
yeah.
position.
The rhythm dance is good. I wouldn't. It's good. The free dance. I actually like the free dance, but I also am holding them to another standard because I am one of those people. The White Crow. I know that music was done to death as soon as Kolyada put it out there in the world. But the White Crow. They first of all, they didn't even go to Worlds that year because no fault of their own. It
Yeah.
was other circumstances by other teams. Um, that program. Oh my God! Like that was one of the best free dances I've seen in quite a long time, in my opinion. It has to be right up there with some of the greats. This one, it's like they actually do. Zach gets, picked on a lot for this really intense, like moody face, but they do
I don't
have
see it
a
anymore though.
personality. Yeah,
Yeah,
he does
honestly, I
it a
don't see it
lot.
anymore. I don't see that he does that anymore. It's a lot
Yeah,
softer.
yeah,
I actually prefer to watch him.
yeah,
Um, Only because like it's I think it's a style thing. I think it's up to you. One of the things that always doesn't gel for me is that they move differently. He moves very ballet, and she moves a very modern dance,
yeah,
and so
yeah,
he's constantly giving this softness, and she's giving this strength.
yes.
I want to find a way for them to gel that together, and I think that's just the biggest thing missing because everything is there. Like,
Mhm.
but I also don't think they were at their best here. I
No,
don't remember when it was. I want to say it was the step sequence and the free dance to where you could just kind of really feel how off they were. But I don't remember. I remember saying something to you, but
I don't. I just neither program really grabbed me. Like they're another
yeah.
team. If they get the right programs, then there's no denying their technical.
Oh yeah, I remember telling you I prefer Rio because it's just so weird,
Yeah, you
even if
said
I
Rio,
don't.
White Crow. They've done
You
better
know,
than.
yeah, and you can see though too, it's like the judges, like if you look at like just their protocols, it's really split between here are judges that think they're team 4 or 5, and here are judges who think they're 9, 10, and it's
Yeah,
like a half panel,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you average to 7, so or 8.
Speaking
Okay,
of,
great.
well, I alluded to this in the beginning, but Turquila and Louis seventh in the free dance, which was really something considering they skated first. I mean,
Right.
who knows what they could have done if they would have skated a little bit later. I said this all season, and I firmly stick by this. I think their free dance is the best choreographed program of the year.
Oh, it is
I am
100%. I would agree with
blown
that.
away.
Yeah.
Massimo
Hmm.
Scali again, like everybody should be trying to flock to him. I don't
It's brilliant.
think he's that busy on his choreography schedule. He does help coach the world champion and women, but everyone needs to be going to him. Everyone needs to be. This is a tango that could have so easily been like, oh, this is another generic tango. Who cares? But
And
this
it wasn't.
program is so good. Even the rhythm dance, you know what? I have to say the rhythm dance too is a lot of fun. They have some weaknesses. I wouldn't say they're the strongest skating skills team, but when you're looking at composition and you're looking at performance, this team is right up there. And the midline step in the free dance, I think it's just so perfectly choreographed to the music. It's as soon as I saw it the first time, I'm like, I bet Massimo choreographed this, and I pulled up their bio, and I'm like, yeah, of course he did. Everyone should be going to him. I'm happy they were able to get seventh in the free dance. What could have been,
Right.
but
And
it still got into the
how
top
many?
10.
Yeah.
So, you know,
But to me, it's like, a top three of the night. Easily should have been. I would have given this the small medal for sure.
yeah,
Even over Smart and Deke, whose free dance I love, but this had everything else. It had all the choreographic nuance, it had the transitions. It
yep,
was
yep,
difficult and you could see it, you never felt it.
yep.
And even to me, like one of my biggest criticisms of them, and I know it's not always shared by some commentators, but I hate their knees. And they feel really kind of like I don't see the nice smooth rise and
Rise and
fall of the
fall.
edges
Yeah.
like with everybody else. Yeah. But I don't notice it here. I think the way they choreographed it, it just really worked out really well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but to start off the night, yeah, it really was a
The
great
first
way
team,
to
you know,
start the night. And even just thinking about the fact that they're there is luck,
and you know, in
total
the
luck.
free dance, when I was doing the calculations and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna miss the free dance by one spot. I cannot believe I came all the way to Boston. I'm not even gonna see their free dance. Unfortunately, the Lithuanians are the ones that lost out. But
Yeah, I know. They were
wasn't
the
it my
only ones left to
1/100th?
sacrifice at the time.
Yeah, one one
Really.
hundredth of a point, I think, is
Yeah,
the
it was 100th of a point.
yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm very very happy that I was able to see them. Let's talk really quick about La Pareva and Brousseau. They're France number one. They won Grand Prix final, or no, they won a medal at Europeans. Um, Now I'm curious because their two programs probably had the best audience response outside of Chalk
They
and Gate.
really did because they were fun. They were
Yeah.
atypical. They took you to a different place. Like,
Do you think though, do you think that maybe they were judged more on a +1, +2 than +3, +4 level because you now have Cicerone coming back. You have the French
yes.
putting out articles that say this is our big hope. When you have a team literally on the podium at a major international this year, do you think now the judges have in the technical panel, this is a level 2 now, not a level 3, because they're
I
going to
think
be
so.
lost.
Yeah, like you
You
just
think
look at
that
their
was the
free
case?
dance score.
Yeah.
I don't think they necessarily were skating like amazingly this event. They've skated better, but it's not like it's below their average or their par.
Mhm.
And what they get under 120. That to me was like really really clear that they're not the French number ones.
Yeah.
I think it's they're getting the same treatment like the last Worlds in Boston to an ice dance team doing really well until another team announces they're coming back, and then all of a sudden at Worlds they drop.
Mhm.
Um,
I hope they stick with it
yeah, what
though,
were your
because
thoughts?
they've
No, me
improved.
too. They're really
They
good
have
because
such
what? Yeah, go ahead.
they're literally like out of all the videos I posted of all the skaters, there's a male skater we're going to talk about later, but they have a big fandom behind them, big fandom, and both of them. He messaged me and he was like, "Is there any way that we can share this on our fan page?" Blah blah blah. The videos that I put, I'm like, take them. Like I
Yeah,
love you,
please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why would you?
So I hope for the best for them, but I feel like this actually happened in the 90s too, with Anastina Peisarat kind of pushing their way up and Monion and Lavanchy, who were,
Oh,
world
that's
they
right.
were injured and they were away, but then they go to the Olympics in 98, having been, I think, world silver and world bronze medalist to that point, and they're suddenly outside the top 10 in 98. I don't, I don't know if that's the politics of how France works. I don't know if it's just by circumstance, but I do feel like they're probably at risk of maybe falling outside the top 10, which should not be the case. It just, I don't know. They're strong skaters. Let's talk
I know.
about,
I'm looking at that now too. On what they outscored Davis and Smolkin by 4 points.
yeah, we're gonna skip that. Green
But
and
anyway, go ahead.
Parsons, Green and Parsons rhythm dance, I'm kind of indifferent to it, but their free dance is, talking about the best
It's
free dance
good.
of the year, I would say the Finns, the Smart and Deke, and then probably third place for me is Green and Parsons. This music, Shoma Uno used it last year. Jason Brown is using it this year. For the first minute or so of Green Parsons, they're all using the same music. It's very one note. It literally is one note. It's a piano. But it's really beautiful and they set the mood really nicely. And this program, I was really wowed when I first saw it. And I was thinking in the back of my head, it was like, well, the way they kind of do these unexpected, curves and edges, it really reminds me of Jean-Luc Baker. And sure enough, he's the one who choreographed it. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised by them. I'm happy that
Yeah,
back at Worlds last year was such a miss that free dance they should have tossed it right away. I'm happy that they've
it's their
reestablished
yeah.
themselves. They're I don't know that they're I still think we talked about Carrera Ponomarenko not really getting the love from USFSA judges. I don't know that anything is set as far as US dance goes. There's 8 teams that are very
Right. I
strong.
agree.
I think if one team kind of bursts in there with a really standout program next year, anything can happen. But I really was impressed by them this year. I'm happy that they they had the result that they had.
Yeah, it seems like they're running the ship, and I think going to a different choreographer for the free dance was a great idea. I really enjoyed it. I have not been a fan of the material the last few years because it just feels generic stuff just given to them. Like you didn't know what to do. So, here's some Gershwin or whatever, what I
Yeah.
mean? Just something I just pulled out that I've done a million times before.
Mm.
And I agree with you. I think the only lock for the Olympic team next year is Chalk and Bates, even with Carrera and Ponomarenko, doing well here at Worlds.
Mhm.
The other teams are just like right there. And it's not like they're so far and away number two. They just are the number two right now. But the other teams are improving,
Yeah.
really quickly. And Green and Parsons, if they get everything together next year and they actually have a rhythm dance that, is good.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
So the Czech teams, I think the Czech teams, you probably have it in front of you. I think they were 12th and
Yeah.
13th overall. It's Mraziks have finished ahead 2 worlds in a row. Last year, obviously, there was a big mistake by the Toshlers, but um, I thought the Mraziks were going to move up much quicker than they did because I was blown away with them when they won Junior Worlds. They were prone to making big mistakes every once in a while. We don't really see that as much in seniors anymore. I think they've they've refined themselves a little bit, and with that, they've lost maybe a little bit of that dynamic, so quick edge that they
Yeah.
once had. But I still think they should be ahead of certain teams that were right in front of them. But I think once the top of ice dance clears out next season, I think they're really going to move up quickly. Toshlers, I don't know. I want to say that they are, but they're kind of stagnating, not in their skating, but in the way that the judges are receiving them. They were top 10 in the
Well,
world.
see, I think of the skating too, honestly. I
Yeah.
haven't seen them really improving in their skating. If anything, it's been like this, I feel
Yeah.
like. They may be going back to like the top of their form, but it's the other teams are improving.
Yeah.
And the Marcheks are improving. So I didn't see an issue with their placement, honestly. I think what did they get? 14th overall. And
12
I'm
and
like,
I think.
aside from one team,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly where they should be relative to this field. And I think a lot of it's too is everything feels the same with them, no matter what type
I
of
do get the
program
same
they're
vibes from their
skating.
free dances. It's very
Yeah, all
whimsical,
one
very
note, all the same.
yeah.
They're never really interpreting anything as a pair to me.
Yeah.
It's all really shallow in terms of like the program, and then even in the elements, they haven't gotten any better. I
Yeah.
think their lists tend to always be some level of average because he's not the strongest lifter. He's not. He doesn't have the best balance. He wobbles a lot. He was strong this event, but in general, they're always having those issues. And then I think too with the steps, I never feel like there's great unison with the steps with them, and I could really feel that here. It's almost like they don't have time to interpret music because they're so focused on just not running
Listen,
into each other.
does it really matter if he can lift when he posts those pictures that he does on his social media? Really, does it matter? Just saying. Okay, let's move on. Probably one of the most fan favorites of the entire week, and we saw this coming from miles away when the season started. But
Oh yeah,
Rahar and
yes.
Pirinen of Finland, they're the second ring. They actually led the way after the rhythm dance for Finland, but their fundamentals are not the strongest. Let's just put it out
They're
there.
not. Yeah.
They're not. There's nothing about their skating skills.
They're probably the weakest skaters that made the free dance.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
But both programs, just it's weaving the rules in a way that the audience doesn't really care about all they have the technical
They
stuff.
don't. Yeah.
It's secondary to what the program is telling. And the free dance in particular, it really tells a story that I think is so many other teams are desperate to try to fit in those few seconds that they have in between the elements, as to where this program, just the elements all kind of accentuate the story that they're telling. And I really think they probably had the biggest reaction outside.
Outside
One,
of US teams.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say
exactly.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That free
Not for
dance
real,
people
yeah.
were standing. They were very, very excited by that
They
program.
got a standing yeah,
Yeah.
they got a standing ovation in the arena. And I mean I stood. I'm like, yeah, because it was entertaining. It was
Yeah.
fun. Programs like this always make me think about that very short-lived, never quite got to live 2-point entertainment bonus they were gonna introduce in Ice Dance way back when.
Yeah, no, 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 no.
Right, was never gonna
They
happen
would
because
have
they wouldn't
gotten
have hit
it, but
it. Right, but they would have gotten it, right? Like 100%, I'm voting yes. That was entertaining. Like I don't even care about the placement, I just didn't. I was just glad to have been there for that performance, and that's really what it was. And I think they're some of the only teams that focus on
yeah.
entertaining the audience,
Mhm.
but it is one of their strengths.
I think I don't know what her citizenship status is. I know there was something today that I saw about an update. As far as I knew, she wasn't going to make it in time. I would hope. I mean, depending on what the rules are, I don't want them to cut corners, obviously. But if they're able to make it, I think they're going to just amp it up even more for an Olympic season. I'm sure. They found their niche. They found he sells the hell out of whatever he does. She does too. But he has this face that's just constantly on. I would really like to see them at the Olympics.
No, I know they're gonna fill that campy niche, for this Olympic cycle. It won't just be Kintratu like last time.
Yeah. So the way that ice dance works out, and this is
Oh yeah.
fortunate that it works like this, is there are 20 teams that make the free dance. Only 19 teams get spots to the Olympics. And the rules had to be pointed out to me, and I don't necessarily agree with the way they do this, but basically, even though Fabry and Ayer of Canada finished 20th, by virtue of the two other Canadian teams earning the third spot, that third spot is confirmed for the Olympics before the 19th place team that only had one team. So Holly Harris and Jason Chan, unfortunately, are the only team, the only country here that made the free dance that doesn't have a spot. They would have to go to China to earn their spot. Um, I think I understand that you're taking the teams that have three and then two and then one, but it also, I was pointing out to other people, if you have, let's just say, you had Canada finish 20th, you had the USA finish 19th, you had Finland finish 18th, Czech finish 17th, Great Britain finish 16th. All of these teams are getting confirmed because of other teams, and then you have, say, a 15th place team. They're by themselves. They would be the ones in 15th place that now miss out on the spot. I think it should just go down the order. You had three teams qualify for the free dance, but you're also the 20th team that would be getting in. So I think it should have fallen on Canada. But the rules are the rules, and
I
it's
agree.
it's
Yeah,
just
and Canada should have to go confirm that third
they
spot.
should
Not
they should have
confirm,
to.
but get that another third
Yeah,
spot. Yeah.
yeah, they should. Yeah, I mean, they have opportunity to get it. I think that that's a rule that needs to be revisited. I think that what
Because
they
they never,
qualification
yeah.
is good. Just that one little nuance needs to be changed. So speaking of that, though, Reed and Ambulevicius are going to be at that event. They're obviously going to win the event unless there's a major disaster. So that's one
Right.
spot right there. And I think there are maybe three. I don't know if dance is 23 teams or 24 teams, but either there's three or four spots. Um, so we'll see. I don't dance is always interesting because it always seems like there's a team that pops up out of nowhere. Um, that makes things interesting for qualifying. Obviously, we know that Cizeron and
Right.
Laurence are going to be. They don't even have to qualify
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
the French teams, but they're going to be in the picture next year. All right, so let's talk. What is your favorite part of the competition? I hope it's the same
For Paris and for
for
dance.
dance.
Okay.
Come on, this is
Okay.
tough to
It's
do.
Dune. It's Dune. I don't
Are
want
you
to be
soon?
basic, but
Okay,
it's Dune. It really is. Like when I'm sitting here right now, I'm like, what program do I want to go back and watch? It's Dune.
okay.
It's smart
Um,
geek. Yep.
Turquila and Bruce Louis, they're free dance for me. I don't care that they skated first. I really wanted to see it in person, and it did not. It disappointed me at all. I really very, very excited by it. Very happy that they were able to climb up as much as they did. But I hope next year that the top teams just all come up with something better. That's my takeaway from this. I feel like there were a lot of missed opportunities. I feel like there were a lot of teams that are putting potential or mid-range that were getting reception that was not great earlier in the year, and they did not do one thing to change it. And that's what's disappointing to me.
And the program selection, especially for those teams, is going to be so important. It really does push that one extra GOE sometimes,
Mhm.
that will decide these competitions and the medals. And so I will keep my hopes and my fears to myself so I don't jinx anybody. I just really want good programs and good ice dance. I think this is a cycle to where I'm not super invested in any one team winning. So I just want to see a great competition. And I would say, like, in terms of this year, if this were the sets of the Olympic programs, I'd be really just disappointed as a set,
Mhm.
overall. Like again, I don't want another 2002 situation where everyone's just doing something sigh worthy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We're going to talk about this after our men's review, but I
Yeah,
think
but
there's a lot that ice dance needs to do with the rules. It's not going to happen between this year and next year, but following 2026, I think they really need to revisit these choreographic elements and how they're getting scored, and then bring back some of the more traditional ways of scoring. Um, as unfan friendly and whatever it may be. I think it needs to go back to the traditional who are the best skaters rather than how high can we throw out these choreographic element GOEs for.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're going to keep the
Oh,
choreographic elements, don't make them insanely high
yeah.
value elements.
We'll talk about it when in our
Right.
wrap up, but I think
Yep.
that there's a lot that needs to be done to more reflect accurately what's strong in the sport. So, all right. So we covered pairs and dance in this video. In our final video, we're going to review the men's competition and also just talk about the state of skating, where we think it needs to go, some of the changes that need to be done. Hope you enjoyed it. This is the skating session. I'm Tony Wheeler.
Thomas.
Hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Bye.